Good morning again. Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing another video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. I've been enjoying a great Sunday morning outdoors. The fog just rolled in. The weather decided that it was suddenly time because it just appeared out of nowhere. It's like, I heard you like fog. Here's some fog for you. I enjoy it. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about something that happened yesterday. I mentioned it in my previous video, and I was on the fence about whether or not to make this video because I really don't want to be overly critical. I mean, it may seem funny to hear me say that after you see my videos, but this one I wasn't 100% sure about, and I finally decided it's better to describe what happened. And it was an omission of the local police department as to the suspected nature of an event, a crime that is thought to have happened yesterday. They described it by leaving out the suspect part. It was presumably a homicide. That's what they said. They said it was a homicide. One word, real simple. And I get brevity. I get that. I get, being to the point. But what is due process? Has anybody seen my other videos? Do you know what due process? I mention it a lot. Due process is not getting to the point prematurely. It's not rushing to judgment. And there's a reason we have courts. I just want to mention something real quick. Whatever happened yesterday, I don't know. I honestly don't know. And the police don't know. I know they don't know because they weren't even there. The sheriff took over the case. And here's the thing. The sheriff doesn't know either. Even if they combed the entire premises, even if they watched it happen, they don't necessarily know what preceded it. This is why investigation is important. Was it in self-defense? Now, granted, the person who ended up dying, someone died, may or may not have represented a realistic immediate threat to the person who killed them. How do you know? Well, this is why we have opportunities to defend ourselves. Was it defense? Was it self-defense? How can you say, was there a realistic and actual immediate threat that the person had to respond to in self-defense? Just because there's a body doesn't mean that it was homicide any more than being on private property makes it trespassing. Maybe you had an invitation. Maybe you're an honored, esteemed guest. It's about consent. It's about the circumstances. Every time it's about circumstances. And last thing I want to say, this is not going to be a super long video. Last thing I'll say about this is the reason that we go to court. I dislike court. I dislike the entire process. I wish it was unnecessary, but unfortunately, there are times when judgment is called for. Judgment is required because justice cannot be denied in any civilized society. It almost defines civilization itself, the presence and accessibility of justice. So who can judge you? You heard this one. God can judge you. No one else, maybe? Unfortunately, there's a practical concern. There's a practical matter when something happens that is beyond a level of supportability. Judgment is required. It has to happen because it cannot be allowed to continue sometimes, whatever it is. And it's not every time. Hopefully it's not too frequent, but I want to say that evidence can support a case, right? That's pretty obvious, but conclusive evidence is a myth. Conclusive evidence, that is absolute proof, doesn't exist. Because there's always some circumstance that you're overlooking. There's some history, there's some connection that may or may not be practical or accessible to investigate, but this is why we have judges. When something, an activity or a behavior is fully unsupportable, disruptive and upsetting and patently criminal, a judgment is required. So they do their best. They do their best to investigate, to establish what is called probable cause and motive. And in a perfect world, every circumstance would be explored thoroughly. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world where courts are free to employ all the money in the world to investigate every single case. They can't do that. So what we have instead is precedent-based legal justice. We have what's called legal language in the form of laws that act as guidelines and outlines for past cases to streamline the process. And it's taken me a long time personally to understand this. The biggest opportunity is to understand that something's not illegal until there has been a violation of some kind of damage that it was outside of consent or a contract. That is a crime. If something was in self-defense, that is what we call a mitigating excuse, an extenuating circumstance. And to call it homicide or even suspected homicide before the facts are in is criminal on the part of the accusers. It's criminal on the part of the district attorney or whoever's leveling the charges at the suspect, at the accused, because until the facts are in, especially in a capital case, you don't know. It might have been self-defense. And even if something didn't happen that day, what if it happened the previous day, or what if there was a long history that you just don't know about and you wouldn't know about? Maybe you don't care about other people. Maybe you don't care about justice in general. But I guarantee if you're on the box and you're being charged with murder, you're going to start caring real quick. So maybe just imagine walking a mile in someone else's shoes before you start, starting rumors, calling it homicide before you even know what the hell's going on. I feel real strongly about this. Reach out if you like with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.